All right, welcome back to Toxic Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, we're going to be talking about some of the toxicity that narcissists are struggling with or that is happening. And some of that is also just showcasing and talking through stuff that happened in my life and what was actually going on inside of the abuse, inside of the affairs that I was participating in causing inside of my relationships. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness of narcissistic abuse, to be able to help you understand how to heal from a toxic person like who I used to be, and also how to grow and change and develop and transform into who you're actually called to be versus being stuck, because I believe you're on this planet to be more than just used and abused. So inside of this, let's dive in. We're going to be talking about cheating today. And inside the topic of cheating, I'm going to be talking through some of my journey and some of my story. Sometimes people hear different aspects of me being almost casual about the cheating. And it's not casual in the fact of I'm being like, oh, look what I did. It's more of like, hey, this has happened and this has been a part of my life. I don't run away from the truth and the reality of what I've done or how I've shown up. I've shown up as a coward. I've shown up as a cheater. I've shown up as a liar. I've shown up as an abuser. And being on this channel to help provide closure to a lot of people has been really rewarding for people to see and understand, and also to be able to find freedom inside of this. So inside of all of what we're talking about today, part of what I want to be able to talk through is cheating and what does actually look like. The affairs and things that I had didn't start off being like, let me go find prostitutes. Let me go be with this person. Let me go just have sex with this person. It was all looking for this connection and looking for this love. And I would paint this love in this beautiful aspect and picture of what I wanted, this ideal love, this version of love that I wanted to imagine and think and say, this is the one, this is the right person, all of these different things. And this is how I would lie to myself to cheat. I'd have to lie to myself to get to a place of saying, well, I'm not happy with my wife. She's not good enough. She's not giving me attention. She's not valuing me. She doesn't get me. I had to lie to myself in order to justify what I was doing. And that's what any narcissist and any toxic person is doing when they're cheating, is they have to be able to tell themselves a story that they believe in order to go cheat. Well, throughout high school and throughout college, there was this cycle of always being with a woman, being with someone. And then as that relationship would start to fall off, I could sense it even before it happened. I could sense before she would break up with me. I could sense before she was pulling away, and I would start looking for another person. I'm gonna start engaging. There's almost like I had people lined up of like, if this person doesn't work, let's go ahead and communicate to this person. Let's go ahead and talk to this person. It was just a cycle. So as one was ending, one was starting all at the same time. There was never a spot where I was alone and I didn't have someone. Now, it wasn't always necessarily a relationship, but sometimes it was a girl that I could text or a girl that I could be with or whatever it might be. There was these different pieces that I always had someone in my life in that type of role. Now, moving into marriage, there was a part of me that thought this will fix it. Like, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Then I'll be done with it. Like, there won't be any more cycles. There won't be any more pieces where I'll be looking for another woman because this will be the one, right? And it got to a place where I started to go through the process of engagement and marriage, and it kind of became just like a check the box thing. It became a check the box thing in the aspect of like, well, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. Right? The high of the relationship has started to fade off. And when it started to fade off, that's normally when I go to someone else. But at that point, I was like, well, I'm kind of stuck, right? Because I'd already committed. I'd already shown up. I'd already been someone who's pursued this. It got to a place where then it was like, okay, I guess I'm going through with this. Not easy for anyone to hear. Not easy for anyone to realize that at that point, I was just going through motions. But that's what my life had been. It had just been motion after motion. It's been one step after one step, going after one person, going after another person. And so got to the place of getting engaged, getting married, thinking, this is it, figured it out. And then stepped into the first year of marriage, and it was absolute hell. Like, Kayla will vouch for this. Like, it was just absolute hell. Like, both of us getting into the relationship and realizing, hey, this is way more intense and way harder than we ever thought it was ever going to be. Now, the main piece was because of me. Because I was an idiot, because I was a jerk, because I was rude and abusive to her. And so I just expected, right? I expected her to serve me. I expected her to do X, Y, and Z. I expected her to cook a certain way, to clean a certain way, to fold the clothes a certain way, like everything. It was awful. And all of that stuff like created this great big divide between us, and also created this piece in my mind of like, oh, she's not good enough. Like, she's not like this. I made the wrong choice. Like, if this is what marriage is, like, this sucks. Like I was using all of these negative pieces to be able to run my mindset so that when someone else entered in the picture, and I'm like, oh, I can connect with this person. So about a year into our relationship, I started up another affair. And inside of this affair, I'm like, hey, I'm connected to this person. This person was involved in work, was involved in our lives, and I'm like, oh, like there's just a connection. Like we connect on these movies, we connect in this music, we connect in this way. Then all of a sudden, that connection just got closer and closer and closer and closer until finally it became physical. And in that place of being physical, it ended up going for about a year, like getting worse and worse inside of just the things that were going on and the manipulation that was happening around it. Different aspects that my wife wasn't aware of because she was sick or because different things were going on, because of the stress, anxiety that I was putting under, had her be tired. She didn't want to show up, so then I would go out with this other person. Like there's many different things that I was doing to be able to put her, Michaela, in like a really, really bad mental situation. Then I would get frustrated at her being like, why don't you make a decision? And then I would leave and go hang out with friends and be with this girl. So this was like part of my world. I was all focused on what I wanted. And so that was that engagement. And so being with that person happened for a year or so. And then that one slowly started to disappear. And the reason why it started to disappear is because she started to get so attached. She was like, well, when is this going to go anywhere? And I'm like, well, it's not going to go anywhere because I don't want to leave, because I didn't want to look bad. And at that point, I didn't want to look bad to church, to religious organizations, to my parents, to other friends and family. Like I didn't want to be that guy, right, that cheated and got a divorce. So that was not who I wanted to be. Also, I knew that wasn't going to look good for her family. Like it wasn't a good situation because we kept it hidden for so long and it wasn't fair. Like how it all started, everything. There's just bad situation. So I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to do this. And so I didn't do it, but another friend found out. And then that spread, and then all of our groups found out. Then I got to a place where we confessed it. Like I went with the affair partner, we actually confessed it to our pastor, and he really didn't even know what to do. So the church started going through this whole process of like, well, he's not repentant because he's still working at the same job with her. We changed our schedules. We weren't interacting at work. Like we changed a bunch of different things around to try to be able to say, okay, like we both need a job, but we need to go ahead and make sure this is separate so that there's not interactions. We stopped everything like stopped, and there wasn't any aspects there of like connection or interaction or anything like that. So it was pretty much like going no contact bout, pretty much. We might see each other in passing, but there wasn't any other connection besides that. And inside of that, then the church was like, well, he's still not repentant because he hasn't left. We were in a transition mode too inside of work where we were actually getting ready to leave that job and we were getting ready to move to a different location. And inside that, we're just like, we got a time frame and this is going to happen. We're going to be out of here. But the church was like, well, look, you're not leaving, so therefore you're not repentant. So let's go ahead and start moving through church discipline. And so there's a weird section in my life. And the weird section here was like, I was getting to a place where I was frustrated, because I didn't understand what was going on. I was frustrated with my marriage. I was frustrated with the affair. I was frustrated with the church. Like I was just frustrated, period. Because I was like, I can't figure this stuff out. I don't understand why I do this. I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand like why I'm struggling so much inside of this. So I got to a place where it was like a come to Jesus moment, right? It was like, okay, give it all up. I'm done. And then we went to counseling. And when we went to counseling, we went to a biblical nuthetic counselor. And for anyone that's dealing with the narcissist, I highly don't recommend this because they're extremely they're extremely able to be manipulated, and the majority of them think that you're actually trying to work on it when the narcissist in your life is not working on it. I do not recommend Christian counseling for narcissists, especially like full blown. You're like, it just doesn't work. Okay, I've seen too many people get gaslit into staying in the relationships because of the Christian frame, which is ridiculous because it's abusive inside of being in a narcissistic relationship. So we went, and part of what was going on inside of this whole situation was he was slowly inserting the almost like subconscious thought process that Kayla didn't do good enough to make sure that I didn't cheat. And he used a phrase which is not all bad, but inside of a context like this is pretty bad. It was basically this idea of like, you didn't make it hard for him to sin. But how it actually came across and what he actually was like indicating was like, well, you didn't make the house loving enough so that he wouldn't go look out for another woman. Like complete bullshit. But it was like ridiculous because we were getting this from a Christian counselor that was like, there was very much like a claim from other people and all this stuff. And so like we're getting this and I'm realizing like, oh, if I phrase stuff a certain way, he's going to put it back on her. And she's coming away from the whole situation being like, it's all my fault. Like he cheated on me because I wasn't good enough, because I didn't do this right, because I didn't do this right. And so she left inside of all of that with a ton of guilt and shame of, okay, it's all your fault that he cheated on you, and you have to keep doing all these things to get better so that he doesn't cheat on you again. It was absolutely ridiculous. Looking back, I know that. Then I didn't. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess it was your fault, right? Because I didn't want to take accountability. I wanted to blame it on someone else. So inside of that, we started moving into different places. Like we were moving around inside of work, and I got into somewhat of a close knit, but then it ended up being long distance because we were moving. Another relationship, another affair. Okay, same thing. It started on a very much like friendship level, then like intimate level, then like a sexual level. And so that piece started to transform, and then that got to a place where this girl got to a place where when we moved one time, she was like, okay, I'm done. Like I can't keep doing this. Like she actually could see it. She could see it from the other person because she was in that friend group. She could see it from the other person, and she could see it from her own life. This wasn't going anywhere, and it was only hurting her. And so she's one of the only people out of everybody that actually went no contact completely. No contact completely on her own and just cut it. And so I got a text message from her, and it was just kind of like, hey, appreciate everything you've done. Appreciate both of you in my life. I can't be a part of your life anymore, et cetera, et cetera. Don't ever contact me again. Done. And that was an interesting one because for me, I actually respected that, which is really weird. Because everybody else, I would like grovel and like try to go back to it, try to figure out, like play the victim, right? But for that, I was just like, as soon as I saw it, knowing her, knowing what was going on, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, this is done. This put me closest to depression that I've ever been. Like walking around and like screaming at God, like being really, really pissed off, being really, really down. And all of this is going on while I'm still in a relationship with my wife. We're still together. We're in a different state than what we originally were. They're working at a different company. And like all of this is going on. And I'm just pissed. And I'm pissed because I'm not getting what I wanted. Like I'm not living how I actually wanted to live. I'm not being with this person and enjoying the high of it. That's all cheating is. It's the high of different relationships. It's the high of getting away with it. It's the high of it. And I was pissed off because I was like, I'm not getting what I want. This continued to lead down to the same aspect of me trying to look for what I wanted. What I wanted inside of different addictive things, pornography, inside of like trying to find other women, like inside of everything. Like this continued to have a pattern in my life for such a long period of time. We're going to wrap up this video because it's longer than what I thought it was going to be. And we're going to come back next week in Toxic Tuesdays to actually talk about the next stage inside of some of my journey. When we're talking about the cheating, what's actually going on in like next stage. I covered the first 2 out of 5 affairs. So I want to be able to talk through this, just to be able to share what was happening mindset-wise, thought process internally. If you're listening to this and you're wondering, like, why is he even doing this? Because part of what I'm doing is to try to provide closure to some of you that are confused about your relationship, what's actually going on. Part of it is just sharing my story. So it's my own liberation from my own story and thought process. And part of it is just being able to declare, this is who I am and this is what I've done, which is why I'm here talking through this to help liberate other people that are trapped in toxic relationships. If you're a woman that's stuck in a toxic relationship and you're not sure how to be free from it, then I want you to understand there is freedom and it is possible. And I work with women every single day to actually liberate them from people just like who I used to be. Would love to share more about that, but you can go to rawmotivations.com just to hear a little bit about what I do. And you also be able to hear a little bit from my wife as well.